A warm welcome to today's webinar, which we organized as part of the BILT project, as a BILT learning webinar. And today we would like to present a tool or a framework that was developed within UNESCO-UNEVOC. It's called the UNESCO-UNEVOC TVET Innovation Framework. And yeah, we've had quite some time working on this already. Olivier will give us some more information. It started as a pilot, of course, and there was quite a big project in Brazil this year. And we would like to introduce this tool to all of you as an option to assess your TVET, your system as a TVET provider, to assess your capacity to innovate in this position, and yeah, to work with us maybe on this in the future. So let me briefly say a few words about the technicalities. So we have interpretation. If you click on the globe, or if it doesn't show, you click on the 3 dots at the bottom of your screen, and you can select English, French, or Portuguese as language. Today we will have some speakers presenting in Portuguese. Also, just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording on the webpage after the event. So you are welcome to come back to it or recommend it to your colleagues. In this one, we are using Q&A for your questions to the speakers, your questions on the content that is being presented, and of course the chat for greeting each other, for sharing useful links, for sharing some thoughts. But please do use the Q&A for your questions to the speakers. Yeah, my name is Nathalie Ax. I'm Program Officer at UNESCO-UNEVOC and work on the BILT project, and I have the pleasure of moderating this webinar today. I will give a brief introduction and then pass on to my colleague Olivier, who will speak about the background and the concepts of this TVET innovation framework. And then we have 3 colleagues joining us from Brazil. Dionisio Parise, who's worked with us throughout this whole year, actually, on the project in Brazil. He will give some insights on the TVET system in Brazil and how the project went about, how it was carried out. And we will hear from 2 colleagues from the Federal Institute of Education, Science and Technology Fluminense, IFF in Brazil, Leonardo and Wagner, on the practical experience with implementing this framework. What were the challenges, what were the benefits, and what can be the next steps to take. We have plenty of time for questions and answers. So please, you can already pose your questions while we hear them speak. Please do participate, and we hope for an engaging exchange today. So let me just say a bit about the BILT project. We are one of the bigger projects at UNESCO-UNEVOC. It started in 2019 and is ongoing. We just received the confirmation it will be extended until the end of 27. And the idea of the project is to create a global knowledge bridge. So the focus is on policy learning, on peer learning, on networking between TVET stakeholders. We are currently focusing on Europe, Africa, and Asia Pacific, but we intend to extend the geographical scope also to the Americas. And the idea, of course, is to address challenges that TVET systems are facing globally. The acronym BILT stands for Bridging Innovation and Learning in TVET. And that's also why, of course, we are happy to organize this webinar, because it's about innovation and it's about learning. So the way that we work is we have these 3 lines of activities. The bridging is focusing on bringing stakeholders together, so mainly through our conferences and through supporting the networking between UNEVOC centers and also between other stakeholders who join our project work. We work on innovation in this project especially through expert groups. So currently we have an expert group working on the building and construction sector, and specifically on greening, digitalization, and also on the theme of migration in that sector. And through this group, but also through other sources, we document innovation and learning practices. And there's quite a database that we already have on our webpage. And of course, we have the learning line. So this webinar would be part of our learning line, where we share concrete examples, projects, experiences that other TVET stakeholders can benefit from and can learn from and can think about, okay, how to adapt this to your local context. How could our institution possibly benefit from such an approach? And in the context of our learning line, we actually also developed a similar tool. It's also we call it self-reflection tool, a tool for self-assessment with a focus on new qualifications and competencies. So it's also has the goal to strengthen TVET providers, especially to participate and to take an active role in identifying new qualifications and competencies, in taking a role to integrate them into their curricula, and of course to implement them effectively in the classroom or in the training context. So also within UNEVOC, I think we are trying to learn from each other, to complement each other with the tools and the publications and guidelines that we develop, and trying to boost each other's work. So I'm very pleased to pass on to Olivier and to present to us what the innovation framework is. Please, Olivier.
Thank you, Natalie, and good morning, all the participants. Good morning, good afternoon, because it depends also on where our participants are connected. It's a pleasure for us to share about the ihubs tools and also the experience that we have implemented in some country. So I will have a 10-minute intervention just to give the global picture of the innovation framework, and my colleague Dionisio and also our partner from Brazil also will share concrete example of what has been done in the field with them. So allow me to share my screen. So, is it okay, my screen?
Yes.
Natalie, you can confirm. Okay. So as I know that almost all the colleagues and participants know UNESCO-UNEVOC, I just want to say that our main mission is to support our member states in their effort to strengthen and upgrade their TVET and skill development system, and also facilitate cooperation and collaboration among member states on TVET and skill development. So this webinar is also for us in the perspective to contribute to reinforce and strengthen TVET system in our member states. So about the we also work as UNESCO-UNEVOC. We are guided by our medium-term strategy. We are almost at the end of the first year of the implementation of our strategy, and you can see that in this strategy we have one thematic focus, that is innovation and excellence. We have 8 areas, and one of the area is innovation and excellence, and ihubs methodology is through this is related to this innovation and excellence. In UNESCO-UNEVOC, almost all the work of our colleagues are related to this 8 area that we have there in our medium-term strategy, and the ultimate goal is to contribute to the UNESCO strategy for TVET that has the following 3 main outline of action: skills for all individuals, skill for inclusive economy, and also skills for peaceful society. So concretely, our innovation tools come from a project that was signed in 2017, but that was implemented in 2019 to 2020. And through this project, we were able to produce a guideline that you have here that is called Innovation, a framework for institutions. This guideline is also on our website. And almost all the work that we are doing presently in country are based on this guideline. So the innovation framework tool is documented in this guideline that our participants can also download in our website. Now, from the experience, there are some improvement, but this is the basic of the methodology. And the heart of the methodology is this graphic that my colleague Dionisio certainly will give more detail later. But globally, through UNESCO-UNEVOC, through this methodology, has come as objective to provide technical assistance and institutional capacity building to selected TVET institutions in UNESCO member states. I insist on the concept of institutional capacity building because in this process, we build individual capacity building, but we also help them to have tools, action plan, innovative practice that they can improve and they can use in their day-to-day work. So globally, it's a global framework where we have a cycle. At the end of the cycle, we have innovative practice, we have innovation action plan. We also have innovative good practice in UNESCO website where you can find what has been done in the field. And we have a tools and online tools that is based on ecosystem matrix, balance scorecard, and peer review. But my colleague will come back later to give more detail. So the main goal of these tools is to transform TVET institution into ihub. What we call IHUB is for us Center of Excellence in Innovation within the local ecosystem. And globally, at the end of the workshop, I hope that we will be able to know how the process, how do we involve all the partners, how really we see this concept of excellence when we are developing the tools. From what we have achieved as a result, from 2019 to 2021, we were able to reach almost 10 TVET institutions, and through the 10 TVET institutions, we were also able to reach more than 200 students, staff, and teachers. We also, during last year, we were also able to work with Brazil. My colleague also will give more detail about it. Allow me just to focus on this last slide that is about how we work with our member states. In general, in UNESCO-UNEVOC, the role of UNESCO-UNEVOC as the International Center for TVET is really to provide technical assistance and capacity building. And most of the time, we are doing it through the UNESCO-UNEVOC Technical Cooperation Unit, because in the network, we have what we call UNEVOC Reference Center. And now, for example, in Brazil, through the process that we have done, we already have our member in Brazil. They are able to provide technical support to other countries because we work with them for a certain number of periods, and we know that we can mobilize them to support other countries. So we have this concept of centers that are world-class experts in one given area. We have also experts that we are working with them that are also able to be mobilized to support other countries. So how do we proceed when we want to support country, and how do we proceed if a country wants to benefit the support of UNESCO-UNEVOC related to these ihub tools? The first thing is to have partnership with the UNESCO field office at country level. For example, in this process, last year in Brazil, we have the UNESCO Brazil that was the one key actor of the process at country level. So the first thing is to have partnership with our field office, that is the UNESCO Brazil, for example, in last year. The second aspect is to have also close relation and collaboration with the ministry in charge of TVET at the country level and all bilateral and multilateral partner of the country. So these are the two key aspects when we want to provide technical support to member states. I give an example. Next year, for example, we receive a request from Pakistan, and in this request, we have the UNESCO Pakistan that is on board, and we have GIZ Pakistan that is on board. This is what we call a country bilateral partner. So most of the time, we need to ensure these two. In Brazil last year, we have UNESCO Brazil, and we have the ministry, in the SETEC, that is like the Ministry of Education of Brazil. So almost have these two actors at field level when we want to implement a support. The second aspect now is to agree together, what do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? Sometimes it can be just a tailored training. For example, for these tools, the country can say, okay, we just want to be trained on how to use these tools. So then we will develop a tailored training and capacity building program to work with them so that they could be able themselves to implement the tools. The second aspect can be just to say, okay, we want to develop our updated tools because this tool is like a global tools. Sometimes you just want to have a national tools, something that responds to the need of the country. In this case, we can work together to develop a national tools based on this tool that we are developing in the house that is taking advantage of international experience. So these are the second type of support we can provide, developing a national tools based on UNESCO-UNEVOC framework. The third aspect is what we call in general systemic approach. The systemic approach means developing a project together with the objective to achieve an impact. Because when we speak about project, we speak about impact, outcome, output, and activities. So sometimes we want to really have a systematic change at country level. In this case, we will work together to develop a project proposal. I just give an example. Last 2-3 months ago, we received a request from Costa Rica for the implementation of these ihubs tools. We worked together to develop a project proposal for 2-year support. So in this project proposal, we have a certain number of outcomes that we output that we achieve, and some outcome that we achieve, and globally an impact that we achieve. So in this case, we have like 3 steps. We develop first a concept note. Then after the concept note, we develop a project proposal. After the project proposal, we develop a cooperation framework. And when we agree about this, then we can launch the proposal. So globally, this is what I wanted to share to the participants. If they want really, after this webinar, they are interested to be supported about the innovation framework, we'll be happy to plan a meeting to discuss about what is the real need. Is it a training? Is it to develop a tool, or is it to develop a project proposal? And really, how to make a partnership with the field office, with the Ministry of TVET, and how really we can develop a support in the upcoming year. Natalie, this was the message I wanted to share with the participants, and thank you very much for giving this opportunity for us.
Thanks a lot, Olivier. And maybe at the end, after we have seen the presentation and discussed the project concretely, yeah, we can come back to this slide, or at least to this idea, and inform more about how institutions or countries, national ministries, and so on can approach us, and for which type of work. So we actually have one question already, whether it's the UNESCO that takes the initiative, or if it's the country that makes the request. So I think we can already briefly answer that one.
Okay,
then maybe...
so briefly, but I hope that at the end we can compile the question, but briefly, yeah. It's the institution through the CEO or the Minister of TVET who sent a request to UNESCO-UNEVOC. In general, the request is sent to the head of office, copy me, but it's the head of office who decide at the end if we can continue the discussion or not. So the first step is to send an official request to the head of office of UNESCO-UNEVOC, copy the technical cooperation unit. This is the process. But in general, also we can have informal online meeting before. So if any participant wants to do a request, they can request us. They can request Natalie, me, or the colleague an online meeting first, and then we can explain more detail about how to proceed.
Yeah, so I think the main message is, of course, the initiative and the request should come from the country or from the institution. So it's demand-driven activity. Okay, so let's move on now. I would like to pass on to Dionisio. He's an expert on innovation and transformation in education institutions, and has worked with us on the Innovation Framework project in Brazil. Please, Dionisio, the floor is yours.
Ok. Olá a todos. É prazer estar com vocês. Obrigado, Olivier e Natalie, pelo
It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you, Olivier. I'm now in Brazil with Leonardo and Wagner. We had the opportunity to have 6 workshops implementing the innovation framework. I believe that... Can you see my presentation, Natalie?
Ok. Bom, Esse slide,
So
o
this
nosso colega
slide,
Olivier acabou de
our
apresentar,
colleague
então
Olivier
vamos passar.
presented, so you can go to the
Então vamos
next one.
conversar pouco
So we
sobre
can talk
inovar
a
em
little bit
instituições de
about
educação e treinamento
innovation
técnico-profissional,
and
sobre o
technical
marco de
training.
inovação da UNESCO-UNEVOC. Novamente, o nosso colega Olivier já comentou que esse projeto já foi implantado em 9 países.
Said that this project has been
vamos conversar pouquinho como
implemented in 9 countries. So we are going to talk a little bit
framework.
more how this framework exists. The main goal is to
centros TVET na dimensão estratégica da inovação e, evidentemente, usando o marco de inovação UNESCO.
So the goal is to strengthen the capacity of technical and vocational education and training TVET institutions in the strategic dimensions of innovations through UNESCO-UNEVOC. So this is the framework of innovation. So together with the center, we will be assessing. There are two main things here: is a balanced scorecard and the ecosystem map. As we can see in this diagram, the balanced scorecard, we have 4 dimensions of assessment. So strategy and management, teaching and learning, products and services, ecosystem relationship and management. This assessment is done through the workshop that lasts a week. And we have 4 groups participating. Managers of the center, the admin staff, the teachers, and the students. All of them, they have an assessment. We have an online tool, and it's considered, and we consider indicators for this assessment. So this is an internal analysis to prepare the Center for Innovation. After that, we map the ecosystem. Then the idea and the goal is to understand the main partners and their competences and what potential they have in the theme and innovation. And then we identify innovation projects, which I will talk about in the next slide. So this framework is a guided self-assessment based on indicators, and we analyze internally in the center how the center is doing in terms of innovation, ready for innovation, taking into account also other stakeholders. Of course, there is a maturity scale from the level of 0 to 4, from absence up to embedded change. And this is the summary of the organizational assessment. You can see here we have the participation of the managers, admin staff, teachers, students, and the 4 dimensions: strategy and management, teaching and learning, products and services, and ecosystem relationship management. During the workshop, we analyze these results, and obviously we have a discussion, an open debate in which we analyze and we ask for the evidences. So why, for example, in this case, the administrative staff has a 1.33 score and managers had 3. So through evidence, we analyze these results, and we can see in this example that in the teaching and learning is the dimension that most needs improvement. After that, we analyze the partners. We also use indicators. We do an analysis of our partners, because we usually say this in the workshops that the centers are not an island. They need to relate with the ecosystem. So we do a mapping of the main partners, and we analyze their potential in terms of contribution of skills, and then we decide with these partners. And after that, we have the Center's General Innovation Index. So after we assess the internal and external conditions, we come to a level of positioning of the center. In this case, we can observe that the partners, the map of the ecosystem, so the external partners, they have potential of innovation, they have a commitment to the development of skills. In the vertical here, we have a result of 252. the general innovation potential of the center, and how we can, as we can see here, we do have potential and room for improvement. So basically, that's it. So then with these results, we identify opportunities of improvement, and we identify weak spots, but especially we identify projects of innovation based on these results. And this example here, the priority would be the process of teaching and learning. So what are our workshop products? We have an action plan for innovation and innovative practices. So what happens here? During the workshop, we ask the participants to remember innovative practices for us to be able to register this so that it can be used as a motivation for new innovation projects. Also, during the process, this program usually lasts a year, and during this process, we develop a booklet of recommendations for the center so that they can strengthen their institutional capacities and, of course, evidently, readiness for innovation. The main activities. So during the workshop, during the week, we hold an ecosystem stakeholders event, and Leonardo will speak a little bit more about that. We identify the institution's maturity level using indicators, evidence. We identify the strengths. We identify improvement opportunities. We develop an ecosystem map. We identify innovative practices. We identify new innovation projects. We develop an action plan for new innovation projects. And we also develop a booklet of recommendations for innovation. So possible impacts of this program. First of all, a strategic analysis of this center and how the center relates itself with the ecosystem. As a consequence, this enhances the position of the center, and it determines a clear direction towards innovation. It fosters continuous innovation, increases competitiveness, establishes a clear direction, ensures education relevance, and also especially generates and improves a culture of innovation. So this was my presentation, and my colleague Leonardo will talk about the impacts of the pilot of implementation that we had here in Brazil. So that's it about the framework of innovation. Before we talk about Brazil's experience, we will watch a 2-minute video of Victor Saraiva, who is the director of the Fluminense Federal Institute, and he was responsible for the implementation of these 6 workshops here in Brazil.
Através do iHub, nós conseguimos repensar aqueles nossos campi dos institutos federais, 6 campi que agora participaram desse projeto, em relação ao seu cotidiano, em relação aos seus desafios, seus pontos fortes, pontos fracos em relação à gestão, a tudo aquilo que a gente precisa atender do estudante, qual é a dificuldade do estudante, se nós estamos chegando nesse estudante de alguma forma, atendendo às suas expectativas, ou seja, esse projeto iHub, ele faz com que a instituição repense a gestão, crie novas alternativas para atender as suas comunidades e também fazer com que essas interações elas ocorram não só aqui nos nossos institutos, nos nossos campi, mas também numa interação internacional, principalmente com os países de língua portuguesa, onde nós estamos conseguindo conversar e, de alguma forma, entender quais são as suas necessidades e, através dessas necessidades, também visualizarmos tecnologias de gestão, de inovação.
Through these needs, we can also identify management and innovation technologies that will allow us to serve our community and help in the development of the communities of these countries. At the iHubs, we also had the opportunity to bring the community in this conversation regarding management and these new management technologies. We spoke with our students, teachers, technical administrative staff, and held a series of discussion with the local production chains where our institutions are located. Through this, we were able to address the needs of the community the local demand, the demand of companies, public sector, including municipalities and states. In doing so, we fulfill the mission of the federal institution, which is to serve the region. By serving the region and developing technologies, we're also able to have an impact, not only nationally, but also internationally.
Ok, então da minha parte, Natália, era isso. Eu vou passar agora ao meu colega Leonardo e o Wagner.
It from me. I would like to give the floor to my colleagues. And Leonardo, just before I give you the floor, I'd like to thank our colleagues. Leonardo, over to you, please.
Ok, Dionisio, muito obrigado.
Thank you, Dionisio.
Fazendo pequeno ajuste na fala de Dionisio, o Vitor Saraiva é nosso
And Vitor Saraiva is a rector.
Nosso reitor, acho importante só ressaltar isso.
Not director, but he is now the current rector. So our project, the Innovation Framework of TVET in Brazil, is based, we have one of its main bases is the Ministry of Education within our federal government. So the Ministry of Education and Culture, which answers to everything that's decided in this area within the government, and distributes to institutions and to public and private university. The main role of the Ministry of Education and Culture, MEC, and educational policy. So basically they work on the formulation of educational policy, regulatory oversight, and resource allocation distributed to universities, federal universities and institutions. Below the Ministry of Education, we have the Secretariat of Professional and Technological Education that we call SETEC. So this secretariat is responsible for formulating, planning, coordinating, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating public policies for professional and technological education. Therefore, it implements professional training programs, promotes technological advances, and promotes partnerships with industry. Parallel to SETEC, we have CONIF, which is the National Council of Institutions of the Federal Network of Professional, Scientific, and Technological Education. CONIF doesn't report directly to MEC, but it is an entity that represents the federal network. And we are a federal network of professional, scientific, and technological education made up of many institutions, and these institutions have different areas. So the role of CONIF is to influence the defense of the federal education network, network collaboration and coordination, strategic planning and development initiatives, internationalization, and international cooperation. We'll speak more about this network in a short while. So the Federal Institute's education network, it has many different campi all over Brazil. We have 41 institutions in this network, and within these 41 institutions, we have 656 campuses distributed in many places. We have around 1.5 million students, almost 50,000 teachers, and 43,000 education technicians. It is a very powerful network within Brazil in terms of professional and technical education. In our project was divided between the 5 main areas in Brazil. So the institutes applied, and one institute per region was selected in this first part of the Brazil program. These are some evidence, some pictures, the events that we had, one per region. This is one of the moments that we registered during the workshops. And in the workshops, we do some important dynamics, and one of them that you can see here is the dynamic with the stakeholders, with the ecosystem stakeholders. They're external actors outside the institutes, outside the campuses, and in this meeting, we discussed a lot about how these entities, how these companies, and how other teaching education institutions could contribute more, could relate more with this institute, and how can this institute contribute as well with these different external players. So this integration and this moment of integration was a really important moment. Not only the managers of the federal institutions, but also the external players, they were able to identify ways of relating and strengthening the local ecosystem even more. And here we have another dynamics of the process. Here we're involving teachers, students, admin technicians, and going deep in terms of the concepts, and we could discuss a lot about all of the strong points within that institution. Here we have another process dynamics, and we were using a special methodology so that people wouldn't be using their digital devices so much, but to write down on paper. So discussing, writing it down, using these Post-its and distributing all over the room. This brought a greater immersion during the workshop and enhanced integration and interaction amongst the teachers, students, the technicians, and the students were so special in this process. They were key because they were able to express their opinions, their points of view as students. And within the same room, we had all the main pillars of this institution together. And here we have some quantitative results. I won't go into details, but amongst the 6 workshops, we identified the strengths, we identified opportunities for improvement, possible actions with the stakeholders, innovation practice cases, and in total, we had 444 here, as you can see, identified strengths, 482 opportunities for improvement, 151 possible actions, and then we selected 28 for analysis. So we identified 156 new innovation projects, and then we were selected 28 out of these. So we had to limit this number because it was the first workshop in these places. Within this whole process, we identified a group of people that were benefited. We understand that the workshop that took place within the institute, within the campus, in a way, it ends up benefiting the whole ecosystem, the local ecosystem around it, within the structure of the institute. So we did a survey, and we identified the total number of students and servers and teachers, and we can see that some campuses have a larger number of students and servers and employees and teachers, but we benefited about 26,544 people. Not all of them participated directly, obviously, but for sure, all these people benefited in some way by the multipliers that we generated. I would like now to give the floor to my colleague Wagner, and along with him, I was the general coordinator with him. Wagner and I were general coordinators of this project. And it was a very successful experience that was reported widely in Brazil and very much praised. Wagner, over to you. Good morning to you. Thank you so much, Leonardo, Dionisio. I hope to see, thank you, Olivier. I hope to see you soon, Olivier. It's wonderful to see this exchange of experiences. Well, you saw the size of Brazil, right? We're talking about almost 1,700,000 students and almost 700 units all over the country. And we attend less than 1% of our units, of our centers, TVET centers, with this set of 6 workshops. But the impacts that these projects were able to have, they were so intense that they're serving as basis for structural policies within our Ministry of Education and Culture, because it's a thermometer that we were able to use to understand what are the pains, what are the advantages, competitive advantages that each center has. And this can be the basis for structural policies for the whole network. So amongst the impacts that we notice, well, first of all, we put the students in the center. So the student development was very impactful, and they saw themselves as an integral piece of the development of strategies for our centers to be able to have more weight in the local ecosystem of innovation. And so that brought up the student protagonism in these workshops, and it remained like this. Right after these workshops, we developed projects that they came up with there with the whole academic community by the demand of the stakeholders or local players. So also the continuing education of educators. As teachers, we usually learn some disciplines, and when we understand the impact that what we're doing can have to society around us, around our center, it makes us really have the desire to specialize in other things as well and to relate to other areas of knowledge. The partnerships and collaborations between institutions, amongst different companies, also had a very big impact when we understand, like Dionisio said, that the campus is not an island, and we can, in fact, influence positively our innovation ecosystem. Obviously, when we talk about innovation, we think about incentive to entrepreneurship. And when we can demonstrate that innovation is not only what makes noise as we play around saying, but it is something that we need to discuss in all areas of knowledge for us to understand which innovation, what kind of innovation is interesting for us as society and concerned about the sustainable development of our regions. And also how it drives research and development, but not only a basic research, but an applied one. The centers of professional training are usually focused on the development of solutions for the market. Therefore, what happens is that when you you meet the stakeholders to understand their pains and understand what kind of problems they're affected by, then we can direct our research to effectively solve these problems. And when what is being researched by the center is aligned with the demands of the local society, the stakeholders, the companies, other institutions that are around us, this elevates the platform of importance of the center in relation to the innovation ecosystem. And consequently, the connections with the whole community, with everyone around us, it is very strengthened because the local development ends up being impacted directly by the students where we train, by the companies that are generated through this relationship between the students, the startups, the research development. This also facilitates when we act in the network, facilitates access to financial resources, because this network helps us expand our horizons, expand our possibilities of our fields of action. We have many projects of incentive to research, local, regional, national, and when we demonstrate the impact that our research is having on society, the access to these resources are facilitated. The initiatives that promote sustainability, which is very important to our projects, this also introspects in the students and the researchers, so that everything that we develop has this basis of sustainability. So also the financial sustainability of the center, when you are able to have partnerships with companies, the financing of these researches, of this research, comes not only from the public sector, but it also comes from the private sector, from the companies. And these partnerships, they're able to make our labs better equipped. They facilitate that our students are able to receive scholarships, for example, so that they can be full-time students and also researchers. And the concern with innovation just puts us in a line of concern, of continuous concern of improvement. So this is important for us to keep improving at all moments. And something that we noticed in the 6 workshops that we developed in Brazil, when Dionisio talked about this at UNESCO in Germany, everyone laughed and said, oh, only you guys have this problem. The rest of the world doesn't have this, which is a problem of communication. As researchers, we end up communicating in not a very good way with society. We end up communicating in a more technical way. And sometimes within the institution, sectors can't communicate amongst each other, and they can't demonstrate what they're doing. And also with the local sectors, production sectors, sometimes the researchers are not aligned in terms of communication, in terms of their language. So they're not aligned to what the society is used to understanding. So we need to improve marketing and communication. This is natural, and it is a common pain for all institutions. And now just finalizing so that we can have more time for questions. So in terms of lessons learned, and we thought about this from the perception of the colleagues, that participated in these 6 workshops. So first of all, we realized, and we always repeat this, that the TVET Center is not an island. In other words, as much knowledge that the researchers have, we have our institutional culture, we cannot be isolated, focused on the researchers, teachers, and students of that center. We need to be in contact with society, because the society will be the thermometer and to show us what we should be developing. The workshop raised awareness in the community about the importance of innovation. In the Fluminense Institute, we say that we want to train innovative entrepreneurs. We want to train people who would like to work on innovation projects, even if they don't want to be entrepreneurs. We also want to train people that can act in the local ecosystem of innovation, not specifically working with development of innovation, but giving the support, talking about, entrepreneurship, the legal part of things, understanding the legal framework regarding the support to innovation, accounting, which can also be key for our fiscal process to be more adequate. And lastly, but not less, but we have also to think about what opportunities we have to develop sustainable development. So we have to think that innovation is not for engineers or for researchers. It is part of all the areas of knowledge of society. And this is something that we have learned, and we are working on that daily within our institutions. And in this moment, when we have 1 week of immersion with about 25 people of all different segments of the academic community, these are very rare moments to have this moment of immersive reflection and switching off from other activities and focusing on innovation. These were very powerful, and everyone thought about and also the transdisciplinary synergy was intense. And for example, one sector had a lab, the other one had another one very similar, but they didn't know that they had similar equipment within the same institution. So the transdisciplinary synergy were very interesting to potentialize these relations and for them to be long-lasting. So the integration of these different segments and the protagonism of the students to be able to develop together with the managers the future of the institution was also a milestone. And the opportunity to design future projects collaboratively and not in a top-down way. So it's not they're not the managers who define what has to be done, but it is a discussion between the whole academic community. And this way we can propose impactful projects and have more commitment of everyone to the strategy that was designed.
Fez uma proposta para que pudéssemos ter pelo menos workshop em cada uma das 41 instituições.
We have at least 1 workshop. We have done 6, now we got 35. This was embraced by the council, was formally presented to the Ministry of Education and UNESCO Brazil, and has received a lot of support, especially in the next 2 years, 2025, 2026, we are going to be able to go all over Brazil, bringing this vision of the Innovation TVET to UNESCO-UNEVOC for all over Brazil, to be able to reach everywhere in Brazil. And we've also received, in the end of this workshop, the visit of 5 African countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, that realized that we developed here, and to be able to get together in the execution of those workshops in their respective TVET centers. I thank everyone, and I'm open to any questions or any comments that would like to make. Thank you very much.
Nathalie, me permita,
Thank
antes
you.
de nós
Nathalie,
pararmos de fazer a
before
apresentação aqui,
we stop our
evidentemente
presentation,
é um desejo do
is
Leonardo, Wagner, e eu
Leonardo,
também agradecer
Wagner,
a
myself
Carolina
would like
Oliveira do
to
CONIC,
thank
que foi
Carolina
importantíssima
Oliveira
durante
from
todo o
CONIC,
processo
that
e
was
continua sendo.
super important
Esperamos
during the
que
whole
ela continue
process,
colaborando
and I
conosco por
hope
mais
she
35 quilômetros
will
de
be
implantar aqui no
working
Brasil.
with us
Bom,
for the next
então,
35 kilometers in
obrigado
Brazil.
especial
Thank
para
you so
Carolina do
much.
CONIC.
Special thanks to Carolina from CONIC.
Yes, also from our end, of course, to CONIF as one of our UNEVOC centers in Brazil, and the important role they've had in this project. So thanks a lot to the 3 of you for these insights. I think participants already enjoyed it a lot to learn about this approach and your experience. Before moving on to the Q&A, I just want to briefly take the opportunity to thank our interpreters. In the chat, I think some had some technical difficulties, but it's all running well, and I have been listening to interpretation myself, and I really want to thank all of them for their work today. So let's move on. We have a few questions that came up. Some of them are answered already, so we provided the contact details in case you are interested in applying this framework. I shared the email addresses of the Network Secretariat and of our head of UNESCO-UNEVOC to whom to address your requests. There is one question concerning the methodology by Cambo Martial Atze. Est-ce que l'approche TVET au Brésil est différente de
Is
SWOT?
the approach in TVET in Brazil is different from SWOT?
So is it similar to a SWOT analysis, or what are the differences or the special approach that you implemented?
Can John? Je peux répondre puisque c'est en français la question.
Oh, because the question is in French, maybe I can answer in French. No, in fact, the SWOT analysis is something that can identify the weaknesses and the strengths, but we have a different steps, and this is actually on the website because not only we do strengths and weaknesses, we also try to have opportunities as well and strategic actions so as to tackle the challenges and take on board the opportunities.
What we are developing is not different really of the SWOT analysis. I was saying that the SWOT analysis is just like a first step of our approach. We go forward, and we also have an approach to involve stakeholders that is a bit different. And the main objective also for us is to develop some solutions. This is why we have an action plan and also capitalize good practice. This is why we have innovation practice. So it's a bit different, even if they have the same start approach.
Thank you. We heard a lot about this multi-stakeholder approach that this framework takes and the involvement of external stakeholders as well. And there's one question from the Netherlands, from Glenn Strachan. Sorry for mispronunciation. It's about the framework is a good example of whole institutional change. TVET institutions need to recognize the importance of the local context and communities in achieving the SDGs through TVET. And now the question, how does the framework take account of implementing innovation and change in communities? So I think it's this going this step beyond only the TVET institution, how does the community benefit? Maybe one or two of you can elaborate a bit or give us some concrete examples.
Wagner, você quer comentar algum exemplo de
Wagner,
cooperação?
would you like to make any kind of cooperation example with us? Yes.
Curiosamente, a nossa rede federal no Brasil,
Our
ela é
federal
muito
network in
eclética. Nós
Brazil
temos ali
is
cursos
very
de
diverse.
engenharia,
We have engineering
cursos
courses, we have
voltados à formação
engineering
de
towards the
professores,
formation of
licenciaturas.
teachers.
Nós temos
We
cursos na área
also
de
have
artes,
courses,
né?
art
Temos
courses,
teatro,
art
música,
foundation,
na área de
theater,
saúde também,
music,
enfermagem, né? Na área de
nursing,
ciências
health,
sociais,
social
direito,
services,
contabilidade. Então,
law,
acaba que nós
accountancy.
temos aí
So we have
transversalidade de
a,
conhecimento muito forte.
a lot
Então,
of
alguns dos
knowledge,
nossos
and
campi, eles são
some of
campos
our campus
agrícolas,
are
né? Outros
agro
têm
camps. Some
uma questão social muito
are
forte e outros são
have
muito
a more
tecnológicos.
social strength, and some are
Dependendo
very
do tipo de
technological.
centro que a
So
gente está atuando,
according
do centro
to the
TVET que nós
type of
estamos atuando,
center, the
a
TVET center
relação
that
com a
we are
comunidade
working, the
pode estar
relationship with the
voltada para a
community can
formação de
be
jovens e adultos,
towards
que é também uma
the
linha muito forte aqui
capacitation of
na nossa rede
adults,
federal.
which is
E
very
dentro da
important
rede
in our
federal,
federal unit.
nós
And
temos uma
inside the federal
verticalização
unit,
do
we have a
ensino
verticalization of
que
the
começou já
education that
décadas atrás,
started
baseada
decades
até nas
ago,
Fachschulen da
based
Alemanha, né?
on
Onde
the
você tem
Fachschule from
desde a
Germany,
formação
where you have
inicial, a
from
formação
the
técnica, a
beginning, the
formação de
technical
nível superior
formation
e a
and higher
pós-graduação.
education
Então, nós
and
começamos lá
post-graduation.
antes do
So we
curso técnico e vamos
started
até o
before the
doutorado.
technical
A
course and we go
relação
all
com
the
as
way to the
comunidades,
PhD.
né?
The
Nós
relationship with
temos
communities
desde
we have
polos de
from
inovação que se
innovation
relacionam com
poles
empresas de base
that
tecnológica ou empresas
have a
que têm
relationship with
demandas de desenvolvimento de
technological
tecnologias
companies who
específicas,
has a
até
demand, specific demands,
feira de
all the
produtos
way to
orgânicos
organic
cultivados
fare, for
pela
instance, that
comunidade
are
local.
grown
Nós
by the local
passamos
communities. So we have
desde
from
orientações sobre economia doméstica
guidelines about
até, por exemplo,
home
como nós
economy,
tivemos
domestic
lá
economy,
em
like we had, for
Brasília,
instance,
né?
in
Próximo ali
Brasilia,
da região no entorno de
close
Brasília, que é a capital
to
federal
Brasilia, which
do
is our
nosso país, Brasil,
capital in
nós
Brazil.
tivemos ali
We
a
had
formação na área
the
de uso de
capacitation of the
tecnologias
use
para
of
comunidades
technology
ao redor.
for
Então, nós
the
temos comunidades carentes ao redor
surrounding
que,
communities.
às
We
vezes, não
have
sabem
communities
usar
that
algumas
sometimes
tecnologias
don't know how to use some kind of technology,
smartphones
like
ou
smartphones
aplicativos,
or
né, de computadores. E, então,
computers,
existe
app.
toda
So we
esse
have
range, né, de
all this big
possibilidades de
range of
interação com a
possibilities of
nossa comunidade
interaction with
local.
our
E
local
estar
community,
atento
and to
a
be
quais são
aware
essas
of
necessidades é uma
what
coisa
are
muito
those
importante para que
needs
o
is very
centro
important for
seja percebido como
our
parte
center to
integrante
be
daquela sociedade, daquela
seen
comunidade,
as an
e não
integral
como uma
part of
ilha
the
de
community and
conhecimento
not
de
like
algo
a
que de repente não é
knowledge
interessante
island
para
of
aquela
something
região.
that is not
Então,
interesting for
toda
that
vez que se cria
area. So every
um
time
novo
that we
campus
create a
de
new
instituto
campus
federal,
of a
há uma
federal
preocupação
institution, we
no
have a
entendimento
concern
de
of the
como esse
understanding
ecossistema local
how this
está
local
organizado,
ecosystem is
né?
going to
Que
be
tipos de
organized,
empresas, que
what
tipos de
type of
instituições,
companies,
que realidade
institutions
social
with
existe ali,
social
para que de
reality are
fato os
existent
cursos que
for
são
the
levados, os
courses that are
desenvolvimentos e as
brought, the
pesquisas
developments,
sejam
the
mais
research
impactantes
are
para aquela
going
localidade.
to have much more impact to this local community.
Thanks a lot. I think this answered the question very well. And actually, there's a follow-up question. It's, I think, the same question, but applying to the institutional level. So can you give us a practical example of how the framework and the workshop helped changing or innovating practices at the institutional level? So once again, just a concrete example. And maybe I can add a follow-up question or an additional aspect. It's something that people are often also interested in. How do you fund follow-up activities? Do you try to choose prior activities that don't require additional funding, or do you have possibilities of raising additional funds because some of these projects or changes might require resources? Maybe Leonardo, I'm not sure. I leave it to you.
Eu posso responder.
I can answer. In reality, first of all, this project that we did last year, we are working, as Wagner explained, to broaden this project to other Brazilian institutions. But the question of framework and funding of our projects, it has to go through phases, very strict steps, because we have a distribution of resources in equal way. As you know, this is a vast network. We had several institutions, and each institute makes the distribution according to their campus, proportionally to number of students, number of teachers, etc. The projects, for those projects, the ones that are considered not only innovative projects, but other projects, like Wagner said, social projects, they have funding specially dedicated to this. So if this funding is not enough, we are going to the Minister of Education. We talk with them, with the projects, and we try to show them what are the benefits and the impacts of these projects, and then we request some more funding. This way, we are able to get some more funding. In general terms, we have already funding that are going to go to innovation, social areas. And when this funding is not enough, we go back to the ministry to try to get some other resources through our politicians, deputies, mayors, and we try to get new resources for our projects.
Nathalie, posso complementar?
Can I complement, Natalie?
Sure, please.
Ok, vamos comentar pouquinho o que acontece
talk a little bit
depois
about
do
what
workshop
happens
com os
after the
stakeholders.
workshop
Porque no primeiro
with the
dia
stakeholders, because in the first
workshop
day
são
of the workshop,
a comunidade, as empresas,
the
os
communities,
da comunidade,
companies
para
are
estar conosco no
invited to
workshop.
be with us
E
in the
eles
workshop,
levantam uma série de
and
possíveis
they
projetos
talk
que eles podem
about
trabalhar com o
possible
centro.
projects to work in a
Após o
center.
workshop,
After the
isso tem acontecido
workshop,
com esses
and this is
6 centros que nós
happening
fizemos,
with our 6
são
centers that
marcadas
we had
reuniões
individual
para analisar a
meetings
demanda daquela
to
empresa,
analyze the
tá?
demand of
Para
each company,
construir os projetos.
to
Então, a
construct, to
partir do
build the
workshop,
project. So
ações com
from
empresas
the
ou com a comunidade
workshop,
são analisados caso a caso,
we
e
analyze
evidentemente
case
se
by
busca os
case,
recursos, a participação
and
dessas empresas
we
para a
analyze
execução
the
dos projetos
resources, the
e
companies, and
principalmente para as
mainly
soluções de
the
problemas que as empresas têm.
solutions of
Então, isso é uma
problems
consequência
for this
natural do
company. So this is a
workshop
natural
que
consequence of the
estabelece ou
workshop that
fortalece a
establishes
relação
or
com as
strengthens
empresas, com a
the
comunidade.
relationship between communities
Isso,
and
Nathalie.
companies. That's all that I would like to say.
And maybe just allow me to come back to the initial question before I deviated asking about budget. The participant was actually Giacomo Bosio, who asked about an example of innovation within the institution. What does that look like?
Bom, nós podemos citar como
we
eventos
can mention
de inovação dentro da instituição
events of innovation,
o que nós chamamos
what we call
de polo de inovação,
innovation framework, or
sua
pillars, innovation pillars. There's some
Os polos de inovação são unidades
pillars, are units.
criadas
They are
especificamente
created
para o
specifically
desenvolvimento da
for the development of
inovação
innovation
dentro do seu ecossistema, principalmente.
within
Os polos de
their
inovação lidam
ecosystem.
diretamente
Those
com
pillars,
empresas, ou
deal directly with companies with their own resources, but mainly they deal with resources from private companies to develop their projects, develop their ideas, to leverage their companies, and for the companies, for the projects that are in a paper, those projects can become reality. So we have some hubs of innovation in Brazil, and we have 640 institutions in Brazil. We have few hubs. We have about 14 innovation hubs, but those are clear examples of innovation projects that institutions promote through their resources. I would like to highlight that those innovation hubs, as I said before, they deal directly with the private money and not with the government money. So this action integrates private companies with institutional educations and the federal government. Once those projects have the participation with those three actors, it's not only lending money, but is the promotion of the company, because this company in the future is going to produce jobs, is going to pay tax, and is going to make the country to work. So I would like to give an example in our country, in our institutes. Those are innovation hubs. This is an example that I'd like to give. So when you link the workshops to action of UNESCO-UNEVOC, so how they integrate, how do they connect? The connection is made by the multiplication of the innovation culture that is able to see the benefits of the innovation and to use those resources of innovation like the hub, and how Dionisio said, the proximity of the company with institutions, with the local ecosystem that would make to interlink for this innovation to be strengthened much more.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so if anyone has any further questions about the project or the methodology, you can still share them now. In the meantime, I will ask another one, especially concerning external stakeholders, but also in general within the institutions. Did you ever face any resistance or any, let's say, hesitance about participating in this process or about speaking openly within the workshop groups? Or what was the response, the reactions?
Wagner, por favor, comente como é que foi a receptividade dos participantes.
Mas isso daí foi grande
Yes.
parte por conta do Dionísio, né?
Well, most of this was because of Dionisio, I'm going to say. Despite having a very interesting methodology, the people that lead these workshops, they have some interesting characteristics. They have to be aligned with the goal of these projects. And Dionisio was able to extract what these groups had, the best of these groups, let's say. And so the first thing that he would come and say, throughout the workshop, he was going to be so annoying and he would be so demanding from the participants that on the last day, the picture time, he would be at the end, in the background, in the back of the auditorium, because nobody would want him to be in the picture. But that is a lie, because he was always the one who was being called to come in front and to be, being embraced by everyone and being praised by the participants. So it's the way that you do it, the provocation that you give, so that everyone interacts and participates. When he would say that he would put post-its everywhere, everyone would be like, but why don't we use a digital tool? They would think, why don't you do something more technological, interactive? But we notice that the simple fact of getting up from your chair and, putting a post-it on the wall and comment something, you are in the same, you feel as if you are at the same level of everybody else. In that point, we noticed that the participation was a lot more intensified. So, of course, besides the technical methodology, we focused a lot about the interpersonal methods, and that was very important. So just going a little bit back to talk about the projects, we have many projects in many knowledge areas, from high technology and social technology, spread out throughout our institute. So we had some robot development projects, waste management, industrial waste management using high technology with ozone, etc., and a seismic monitoring as well of seismic events, but not only being used for earthquakes, but also to evaluate dams in which the water going through this dam could provoke some sort of accident, as unfortunately we experienced in the city of Mariana and other cities, and where dams coming from mining companies ended up destroying cities, neighborhoods in a very dramatic way. We had technologies of software and satellites, and at the same time, we developed coffee roasters using AI to replicate curves of roasting of coffees that specialists are developing. Therefore, actually, we have the development of technologies in many areas of knowledge, besides working with the monitoring of plantations of wheat, soy, corn, using drones and image analysis to identify where there are insects and bugs, so that would be geo-reference when they would do the insecticides, and you would only do the amount that was necessary in the necessary place. In other words, we had many new developments happening in Brazil, besides cultivating different projects, developing different plants, passion fruit plants, and other plants that we cultivated, and we developed this in our institutions. Therefore, the diversity of possibilities, because we have because it is so diverse and vertical in terms of levels of education, and this integration of different areas of knowledge is also very impactful. One thing we say a lot in the Institute is that when you take an area that has low technological intensity and you join it with another one that is highly technologically intense, the possibilities are more impactful. When you are at the highest linear threshold of technology, sometimes everyone is speaking the same language. When there's this diversity of technological intensity, in that moment we have more technological impact and development. Natalie, we're developing a publication with 26 success cases, 26 projects. We're finalizing the elaboration of this publication. So we have 26 success cases registered. So if you allow me to say that the integration with companies, they felt very happy to participate in this conversation, actually. So it was a very, very wonderful integration. We identified many points of action with these partners. So this workshop that began with the beginning with the meeting with stakeholders is immensely important because it opens up opportunities with companies and also the consciousness of the participants that they need to look out of the center outwards and they need to focus on community as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think we all make this experience that's often, I mean, people are often by nature resistant to change, and because a workshop like this can change the way they work, the way they do the routines and so on. But I agree. My experience is also that if you establish a personal contact and not just digital formats, but exchange between people, it really opens up the doors and the possibilities. So we are coming towards the end. I would like to mention that my colleague Felista shared the link to the feedback form in the chat. So we really appreciate if you take just 3-4 minutes to provide your feedback. It helps us evaluate our work. We have one participant who would like to ask a question, Abebe Tibebu. I'm not sure if we would be able to open the microphone because it did not come through the Q&A. As we are not sure if my colleagues can briefly react to that. If not, let's move on to another question that came in, which is actually coming back to the beginning on interaction with UNESCO-UNEVOC. We had actually 2 or 3 questions going in the same direction. So if one is a consultant or an expert or a trainer, how can they be a member of our network or of our community and benefit from working with UNESCO-UNEVOC? So maybe to you, Olivier, if you can make some general comments on opportunities for collaboration.
Yes, so I will suggest 2 things. When you are a consultant or an expert, I suggest first to connect with our TVET forum. I think Max can share later the link. The TVET forum is for us a platform where experts can exchange and also discuss about their expertise in the area of TVET. And through the discussion, we can be able also to appreciate the expertise. So this is the first way to interact with us as UNESCO, as expert on TVET. The second way to interact with us is also to check if your center is a member of the network, and if your center is not a member of the network, you can also see the process to involve your center within the UNEVOC network. It's a very difficult, it's a very heavy and selective process, but if your center or your institution have all the profile, your center can join the UNEVOC network. And so this is the second way for us. And through the UNEVOC network, we can mobilize you later for technical support when we receive requests from our member state, because when you join the network, we are able to access your expertise, and almost when we receive requests from country, we can count on you to also to support other countries. So UNESCO TVET Forum is the first way. Secondly, your institution can join the UNEVOC network. And thirdly, also we have lots of programs that we implement. For them, through the BILT project. Also, we have lots of learning forum. We have lots of webinar where we will be happy to have you to share your expertise during discussion. And lastly, it could also be, you can also share to our link your CV. We are presently working on a roster of experts. So perhaps sharing your CV, we can later check through our commission, if you can join the roster of experts of UNESCO-UNEVOC. I think Max, our team leader for knowledge sharing, also is working also with us to set up this roster of experts. So perhaps you can join the roster when we evaluate your CV. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Olivier. So there are plenty of opportunities to work together, to get involved. There's another question also in a similar direction by STEP Innovations. Are there examples of TVET institutions working along with each other in leveraging innovations and resource mobilization? So that's also something that we are really interested in, not only to have this one-on-one relationship between TVET institutions and the UNESCO-UNEVOC International Center, but to help you get in touch with each other and to build relationships between centers, between the countries, across the regions. And you mentioned the BILT project. We have some examples there where people met through our events, through the exchange there, and in the end, half a year later or even more, set up memoranda of understanding to collaborate with each other for staff exchange, for joint research projects, and so on. So that's clearly also one of our objectives, to strengthen this network. If you have concrete themes, areas of interest where you are looking for potential partners, you are also welcome to contact us through the UNEVOC Network Secretariat, or just our generic email addresses. We will then make sure it gets to the right persons within our office here. So
yes, Natalie, I just wanted
yes.
to say that in almost all our country, UNESCO member states, we have a UNEVOC center there. So if you are an expert and you are not in a UNEVOC center and your center cannot join the network, we also encourage you to link with our UNEVOC center in your country, because through the UNEVOC center in your country, if you have a proposal, a thematic that you want to work on it, you can link with the UNEVOC center, who can contact us and see how we can partner together.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. So we have still one or two participants who raised their hands. We have 3 minutes left. Max, I'm not sure if you have the possibility to open the microphone for one more short question.
Yes, it is possible. There's one hand raised by Rabina Sangera.
Please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much for this. It was really interesting. At World Skills, we work with a lot of skills development across different sectors, and the innovation element of it is quite a challenge for most of those sectors. One of the things that we're interested in is how we're starting to look at not just the digital literacy, but the AI literacy, now that the AI literacy framework has been made available by UNESCO.
So can you repeat what the question was? So
of course, yes. We'd be interested in seeing how the innovation framework is integrating the AI literacy.
Okay. Olivier, would you respond to that one?
I can just jump, because in our tools that we are doing, we don't fix the thematic of interest. In the process that we have, in the initial process, we with the stakeholder agree about what are the thematic that we focus. I think that sometimes we focus on 6, 7, 8. So it's not, we don't fix initially where we focus. So in a given context, we can really focus on digital literacy or AI if it comes as an emerging issue or something very important in the local context. So this is, our tool is open to take into consideration the needs of the center. We don't fix in advance. It's with the center that we do it. So Dionisio, you can also add about this, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's enough, but of course we can apply the framework, okay, and focus in some areas or some issue. It's possible, okay. Now I mix with the English.
All right. Yeah, our time is up. I hope you all enjoyed this webinar so shortly before it's Christmas break for many of us and the change of year coming up. I wish you all some break that you can take and a fresh start into the new year when we get there. And hope to see you in some of our webinars or other activities next year. Thanks again to our speakers, to colleagues who supported in the background, to the interpreters, and to all our participants who were interested and active in our chat. And yeah, wishing you all a good day ahead or a nice evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Natalie. Let us hope that in 1 year we could be able to have some concrete examples that has been set up in country.
Yeah. Bye-bye.